In this video, I want to talk about the wholesaling laws that are popping up all around the country and what you can do to continue to wholesale if a law pops up in your area or has already popped up in your area. But before I get to that, I just want to talk about why I think this is happening. And there's really a couple reasons for it. The first being that up until now, a lot of people are just wholesaling wrong. They go out and they get a property under contract at too high of a price and can't find a buyer for it. They haven't lined up buyers. They go out and they put it on Craigslist or they put it on Zillow or the MLS or whatever, and they can't get anybody to buy the property in the 30-day time period or whatever they wrote the contract for. And then at the last minute, they either tell the person, oh, I'm not going to buy the property, or even worse, they just ghost them and they just disappear. So that sellers, depending on that cash to do something else, to buy another house or whatever, they get screwed, and they call the state attorney and they complain about it. And, and the state attorneys are just getting so much, complaints on people doing this the wrong way that, it's creating these laws, to start popping up all over the place. The other thing, and I think I talked about this in one of my first videos, is the right way to wholesale is to have relationships with buyers, with cash investors, and know what they're looking for. So when you go out and put a property under contract, you have somebody that's going to buy it, or a group of people that are going to buy it, and you don't ever advertise the property, right? And there's no hiccups. You just get the contract, you assign it, and somebody closes on it, and nobody ever complains. So, having bad wholesaling habits has caused a lot of this. People, like I said, getting stuff under contract, not closing on it, not having an investor to go to it. So do yourself a favor and do the industry a favor and learn how to do this the right way, so you're not pissing off sellers, and you can actually get that contract to an investor and close on the property. The other issue I think that has brought all these these laws to the surface, or started creating all these laws, is the fact that just wholesaling's just more on the radar now, and all the the National Association of Realtors and all the different brokers and everything, it kind of upsets them because they feel like we're taking their business, right? We're coming into an industry. They feel like maybe the realtors aren't getting deals because we're getting the deals. Maybe we're marketing better than their realtors to get the, when they're trying to get listings, and we're getting all the deals with, with meat on the bone. But whatever the case, we're getting the attention of the real estate industry, and they don't like it, right? And they've got big money behind them, so they can go and lobby and get all these laws passed that hurt us. So with that said, how do you keep wholesaling if they pass a law in your area, or have already passed a law in your area that says you can't wholesale without a real estate license? All right. Well, the number one solution, I guess, would be go get a real estate license. And I don't know how this is going to work with brokers, if they're going to want half your your deal if you're wholesaling a property or what. But it never hurts to have a real estate license, because it's just knowledge, right? You want to be in the real estate industry, go out and learn about real estate, right? Get your license, be a licensed realtor, and have that knowledge, so you know the laws better, and the industry better and all that. So that never hurts. If you've got the cash, go out and get your real estate license. Another way for wholesalers to kind of bypass the situation is to use transactional funding. So what is transactional funding? All right, you're like, well, David, I don't have good credit, I can't get funding or whatever. You don't have to have good credit to get transactional funding. How it works is you have a property under contract, and you have a buyer lined up, you can go get funding to get that deal done, right? You borrow money for a day so you can close on the property, and then you just turn around and do the second closing, sell it to your investor, and then you pay the money back for the transactional funding. All right, so that's a great way to do it, because then you are actually closing on the property in your name. You're only owning it for a few hours, but you're still closing, and it's not wholesaling anymore because you took ownership of the property. All right, so transactional funding is a great way to do this, and you should have that anyway, because there's other reasons to do transactional funding. You might want to, hide the profit margin of your deal, to your cash investor. You might not want him to know that, or her to know, that you're making 15 or 20 grand on the deal or whatever. So by doing transactional funding, they don't know what you're making. They don't know the spread from what you bought it for to what you're selling them for. So there's a lot of other advantages to transactional funding. If you look in the description of the video, I'll put a link to transactional funding. If you're ready to go on it and you're ready to line up transactional funding because you have a deal ready to go and you're ready to make the monetary commitment on it, we can get on the phone and I'll talk to you about it if you're ready to go. But check out the link below, and if you need transactional funding. All right, so the third technique that I would recommend to bypass the laws that they're coming up with is to start using an option agreement. All right, so on my website, I have an option to purchase. It's not a purchase agreement. It's just an agreement that the owner signs and says, hey, I'll sell to you at this price before this date. All right, so I find somebody that's got a house and I say, hey, I'm not personally interested in this, but some of my investor friends might be interested in it. What's the rock bottom price that you would take for this? Because I don't want to go to them with a deal unless I know what you'll sell it for. So what's the best price that you'll sell this house for? So they give you the number. It's $75,000. And you go, okay, $75,000. Before you'll do a deal before the end of next month at $75,000, and stick the date in there and have them sign it. Okay, I agree to sell you the house at this price if you come back and make me an offer before the end of next month. So then you can assign that option agreement to your cash buyer. Okay, you're not putting the house under contract. You're not tying somebody up. If they find another buyer, they can sell it to them. They're just agreeing that they'll sell it to you at that price before a certain date. So again, option agreements, not putting a house under contract. Check with your local state and the laws that they're coming up with. But the laws that I've read say that they talk about putting a house under contract with a purchase agreement and assigning that agreement. An option agreement is something totally different. It's not a purchase agreement. They're just saying, hey, I'll sell you the house at this price if you want to come back before this date and we can do that deal. So I think an option agreement would get you around that scenario. All right. I think this is reason number 4, not reason number 4, but technique number 4 to get around the wholesaling laws. And that would be to buy the house in an LLC and then sell the LLC. All right, so this is commonly used with bank properties because banks don't allow assignable contracts. But say I found a house, a distressed house, motivated seller. I go in and I make them an offer on the house, $75,000, and I'm buying in the name of I Buy Houses LLC. LLC that I've created. Okay, and then so I put that on the purchase agreement. Buyer, I Buy Houses LLC, and then instead of assigning my contract, I just sell my LLC to my buyer, and they become the new, president and CEO of the LLC, and they close on the property, okay? So I'm not assigning a contract, I'm selling my LLC. So, like I said, that's the strategy that people use to buy bank-owned properties. So I don't see why that wouldn't work with wholesaling. If you want to, it's costs, depending on the state, a couple $100 to form an LLC, but you can form, 2 or 3 of them. And every time you buy a house, you put it in the LLC, you sell the LLC, you take a couple $100 of the profits, you buy another LLC, and you always have a few LLCs on the shelf so you can use them as you do deals, all right? So that would be another strategy to get around the wholesaling laws. And lastly, if you could virtual wholesale, if you live in Illinois or Oklahoma or wherever they pass a law, you can pick another market and just do it virtually. But the downside of that is eventually, a law might come to your virtual market where you've picked. So, short term it might be a good strategy, but long term, I think we might see, these laws kind of spread across the country, requiring people to get a real estate license. So you're going to have to come up with a strategy, to get around it. Lastly, and this, just popped into my head, you could, if you've already got established investors that you work with, you could just go to them and just do a deal with them. Say, 3 or 4 or 5, of your best investors that you sell to, and just write an agreement with them that you're going to be their acquisition specialist, and they'll just pay you, a flat fee on the house. It's kind of like a bird dog thing, but I don't like the bird dog phrasing. But, you can be an acquisition specialist and just say, hey, I'll go out and find properties. I'll negotiate a price, and when we negotiate that price, I'll bring the deal to you, and you write the contract at that point. And just have them pay you, a flat fee of, $4,000 for every house you bring them that meets their criteria or something like that, and not sign the contract until they're ready to sign, and then, get the contract from the seller, take it to the buyer, have them sign it, everybody signs, and you just, you're just working for the investor as, as a acquisition specialist or a bird dog. So again, with any of these ideas, check the legality in your state, and don't do something illegal. I'm not an attorney, so don't, take my word for it. It's just some ideas that I had on how to get around the wholesaling laws popping up around the country. So that's it for this video, and I'll talk to you again soon.